All right, Congress cracking down on China. A lot of it's going to resurface this week. Joining us, great pleasure, House Majority Leader Steve Scalise from the great state of Louisiana. Leader Scalise, thank you, sir. We talked quite a bit about Afghanistan with Senator Tuberville. You may have heard that. But I want to talk to you about this. The China stuff is very important. You have a package of bills. And as I understand it, Steve, one of the key issues here is, can we not give Chinese the benefits of our EV tax credits, which, by the way, Americans don't really want the benefits of the EV tax credits either. And maybe we should get rid of the whole misnamed Inflation Reduction Act. But I know no EV tax credits should go in any way to China is one of your key points. Can you help us out on that? What are you cooking up?
Yeah, Larry, it's going to be a busy week, like you said, confronting so many of the threats that China poses. The bill you're talking about, you know, it's about a $7,500 tax credit for every EV, and over 90% of the batteries are made in China. And so this bill would prohibit it from countries that basically are threats to the United States. There's 4 of them that are listed. It's China, North Korea, Iran, and Russia. You know, not really good allies of the United States. And yet you've got billions, tens of billions of our taxpayer dollars going to China. This bill stops that from happening. There's a number of other bills you're seeing China, especially through CCP-controlled entities, buying up farmland in America. So our food security becomes threatened. This bill says the CCP-related entities cannot buy farmland in America. A number of states have already prohibited it. This is a federal prohibition. You've already seen China buying up land near our military bases, Larry, especially some of the classified military bases, and spying, using that land to spy on our military. These are all things that China is doing very aggressively. We're finally starting to push back. I wish the administration, both Biden and Harris, would work with us on it. So far they haven't, but we're going to move forward.
You know, just on that brief point, they like to build them. They like to buy farmland near military bases, as you say. You know, when Robert O'Brien and I were able to get the President Trump to sign off on getting rid of Huawei, Huawei was building these old-fashioned wooden telephone poles, and they just happened to be building them near military bases, and that includes nuclear-related military bases. And on these phones, Steve Scalise, I may have told you this story, Huawei, the Chinese phone company, had these tiny, tiny cameras, but they could look right into the military base. These were nuclear-related military bases in California, in the Dakotas, as I recall. So I think it'd be a pretty good idea to stop them from buying farmland. What about this other thing, Steve Scalise? These Confucius institutes, which, you know, when we were growing up, we used to say, well, Confucius would say. But all of a sudden, these have become very serious matters. These Confucian institutes, they're Chinese propaganda. And if they set them up at colleges and universities, should we be giving them federal assistance, these colleges and universities? Something should be done, shouldn't it?
Yeah, and we have a bill that takes care of that. Like you said, you know, China's been putting a foothold into every university around America. Look, we've got enough problems in higher ed. And a lot of that we've exposed through hearings, anti-Semitism, not standing up for their own students, especially Jewish students, teaching far, far left ideology. That's what that from happening. So universities of higher ed cannot accept money from China, CCP-related entities. I mean, again, like you said, you know, Huawei was a threat that y'all helped take care of. President Trump said, we're not going to allow Huawei in DOD facilities anymore. They actually had their routers in a lot of DOD facilities, which means they got access to the data of our DOD. We banned that finally in the Trump administration because Donald Trump took China seriously. Biden has not stood up to them, nor has Kamala Harris.
How about anybody that does business with China? Shouldn't they have to register on the Foreign Registration Act? You know, you have this incredible story coming out of New York State government where this woman, Linda Sun, she was a top assistant to former Governor Andrew Cuomo. She was a top assistant to current Governor Linda Hochul. I guess she's finally been arrested. She and her husband are in cahoots with China. They never bothered to register as foreign agents. By the way, I could think of somebody else, a guy named Hunter Biden, who did a lot of business with China, never registered as a foreign agent.
Never registered.
Yeah, I mean, I think something ought to be done with that. I mean, I think that law should be resurrected, expanded, and maybe enforced for a change.
Yeah, in fact, we put a commission together on what's called outbound investment. And it's what you're talking about. It's investment from America into China. A lot of American companies do it. There's different ways you can address it, but it's complicated financial industry, details we have to work through. But we are working through that with two committees of jurisdiction, Financial Services Committee, Foreign Affairs Committee. They both have a lot of understanding, maybe different approaches. And so we're going to blend that together and bring legislation there as well.
What do you want to hear Donald Trump say tomorrow night? We talked a little bit about it with Senator Tuberville. I'm sure you have an opinion. Where should he go for?
Yeah, I do. Look, I really think that the more President Trump continues to contrast his policies with Kamala Harris's, don't let her get away with trying to run like Donald Trump's the incumbent. The economy stinks. People are struggling because of the policies of Kamala Harris, not Donald Trump. When Trump was president, and it's important for him to say, are you better off than you were 4 years ago? The classic Reagan line. And of course, nobody thinks that they are. And yet Kamala Harris is talking as if she's, a commentator up in the booth, not that she's the vice president making a lot of these decisions and casting the tie-breaking votes for the bad policies that are driving inflation. And just stick with those policy differences, and he will do great.
Steve Scalise, thank you, Mr. Majority Leader. We appreciate it very, very much, as always, sir. Thanks a million. Talk soon.